Hi, kings and queens. Welcome to Spillin' Honey, the podcast that encourages you to spill it, honey. In honor of today being Father's Day, of course, y'all know I had to come and I got my father with me today on this episode. Everybody say, hey, daddy. All right. So, I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. So, the first question that I have for you is, what do you wish you knew prior to becoming a father?
Ooh, that's a good question. You started out good. What do I wish I knew prior to becoming a father? Well, I think for me, without trying to give old fluffy answer, I think knowing really how to that you could love something more than yourself. That I wish I knew how important it was to give that child what they need. What I'm trying to say is I wish I knew how long and important. I think I'm speaking from the fact that my father wasn't there. So I wish I knew how important it was, especially for a daughter, how important it was to continue the love and the structure. And I think I'm trying to get through, like, it's different from with my sons, but I feel like I'm lost in my answer, but I just feel like I wish I knew how much love was going to come out of being a father and that it continues forever. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Yeah.
So then that leads me to my next question, which is, what do you love most about being a father?
Just the way somebody can care for you and love you in spite of your faults, and just to watch my children grow and become their own people, and mainly like you, just the pride that I have when I see you do things from podcasts to editing my book to just being thoughtful and loving. It's just amazing to see yourself and your children.
Okay, so then on the contrary of that, what do you hate about being a father? Or in your opinion, what is the downside of fatherhood?
I don't see any downsides of fatherhood. I mean, I had some painful things, not concerning you, because I mean, everybody know, like, you my golden child, so like I have nothing but pride when it comes to you and love. But I mean, I have a son that he hurt my feelings and he did some things that I don't agree with, but he's still my son. And I have my oldest son that our relationship is not where I would like it to be, and we don't always agree with everything that we do, but at the same time, I just had to learn that even through the negative, I'm still a father. Even through the hurt, I'm still a father. Even through the disappointment, I'm still a father. The same way my Heavenly Father do me when I mess up, because I'm just a knucklehead. So it's a feeling. So I can't call it hate. I just call it discomfort in the struggle that you feel from, like, because just because you wouldn't do something, you try to understand, why would my kid do that? I didn't teach them that. Where did they get that from? But they're their own person, And then the same thing, we so soon forget about the stuff that we did to our parents or how we act back in the day.
Right.
That we tend to, how soon do we forget? Because I heard somebody say, if you meet a wise person, mm-hmm. If you show me a very wise man, I'll show you a young, ignorant man who was full of mistakes, who was full of folly. That's where I got my wisdom, most of my wisdom from messing up myself.
Right.
Yeah, from stumbling and falling myself. But no, there's nothing I I hate about being a father. I don't even care about how much it costs me financially. I don't care about the sacrifices I made. I don't care about, the money I could have kept for myself, because I'm not selfish. So I've always been a selfless person. So I get joy in seeing my kids have things that I didn't have, or everybody wants better for their children. So my children have been nothing but a blessing for me, whether they know it or not. Just the thought of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right.
And then, so my next question is, do you regret becoming a father? This is kind of on the heels of the ones before, but do you regret becoming a father? Or do you, or did you rather, regret at one point becoming a father? So, like, did you regret when you became one?
I feel the question. No, I'm tracking. I never regretted being a father. I can say that the word regret is too strong when you're a Christian, because you understand that all things, God has a plan. So you got to trust this plan. But would I have done it a little different? I believe I would have. Of course, you want to say, okay, I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna get married, and then I'm gonna have children, and we're gonna be together forever, and it's gonna be structured, and the children are gonna grow up in the house, and they're gonna become this and that. I'm happy. I told my kids, I told you when you were young, I don't care what you do, just finish school, go to college, and do what you love. And if you was to go throw trash and you loved it, then guess what? I'm proud, like, yeah, my daughter throw good trash, because that's the way I am. Like, whatever you like, if you like it, I love it. So for me, I think I wouldn't have had a kid as young and irresponsibly as I did, because I think I could, as I got older, I became a little bit of a better father. And with more structure and more finances and more time, you can be a better father, because if you're spending all your time trying to just make ends meet and pay your bills, you don't have time to sit down and talk to your kids and go to their baseball games. Or when I made money, I was able to say, hey, yeah, I got 10 customers coming up trying to spend money with me, but I say, hey, we got to save this for another day. My son's baseball game about to start. And that's way more important to me than these thousands and thousands of dollars that I can make, because I can't get that back.
Right.
Yeah. One other thing. One time I had my dealership broken into, and they plundered a lot of my items. But I lost collectible baseball cards, gold coins. They stole custom brand new suits, shoes. I could just think of so many things that they did. But the one thing that bothers me, and I just said this the other day, I had a box with everything you ever made me as a child. Every painting, everything you colored, every piece of art you drew, and everything you wrote to me, every letter, I had it in a box with pictures of us. They rummaged through that box and threw it all over the floor. They stepped all over it. They tore it up. And that's what was the most valuable thing that I remember. I didn't even care about the other stuff. So yeah, no, there is nothing I regret about having children. No.
Okay. What is something you wish your children knew or understood about you?
Well, I wish my children, maybe they do. I wish they understood that their dad came a long ways spiritually, and that God did a miracle in me, really. And they knew, like, how much, I wish they really knew how much I love them. I think but I want all my kids to understand, no matter what it might have been tough at times, but they always had love. They always had support. They always had a abuse-free environment with me. And I wish they could understand that they can talk to me about anything. I mean, anything. And I want that to be for me too, to be able to talk to them about anything. And I just wish they knew, like, they dad really ain't no joke. You know what I mean? They dad pretty tough. He's a tough little soldier, and the protection level's there, the love is there. just understanding that I'm a man. I'm just a man like anybody else. I make mistakes. I hurt, you know, and I want to live and be happy too. I just want my kids to relate to that fact. And if they can understand that and love me through that, you know, hey, I hate to burst their bubble. Dad is not Superman. Dad is a man who loves God, and God is super.
And that's kind of piggybacking off of what you said. That's kind of why I asked you that question, because a lot of times parents are just seen as that. They're seen as parents. You kind of sometimes forget that your parent is still a person. Right. And I know for me, sometimes I forget that, you know, you and my mom, y'all are still people with real feelings and right. goals and dreams just like me.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes that could just get lost in the sauce because, you know, this is the person that, these are the people that brought you into the world. So right. you looking at them and you like, help me.
Right.
And then, you know, well, when I say you, I mean children. We don't understand that sometimes our parents is like, shoot, help me.
Right.
Right.
That
help
part.
me too.
That part.
Help me too. So
true statement.
So yeah, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
So
yep.
My next question is, what motivated you not to repeat the cycle? So, in other words, basically not having a present father in your life, what made you want to be active in my life or, you know, your other children's life? And I use this loosely because I know my brothers, you know, may have their feelings because, right. you know, like you know, alluded to, you know, your relationship with them is not always been A1, but still, at least in regards to me.
Well, I'll just say, if it's fair to say, I could only make that excuse for my oldest son. And again, I had my oldest son. I was only 16 years old when I conceived him. I told his mom I was 21. And of course, she believed it because of the way I carried myself. But I was young, and I was not there for him the way I could have been because I was still trying to finish school. I was still trying to go to college. And as he got older, I reached out to him in a lot of ways. And it's so amazing to me that he is such an awesome kid. And regardless of our differences in lifestyle, I love him very much and I respect him. And he has to come, because at some point he has to come to terms with the way he feels and allow me to love him in that way. But as far as this is easy, as far as being a good father, being a young kid who was pretty much I won't say outstanding, but a leader. I was a leader. I was the captain of the football team. I was the spokesperson for this particular thing. I was the president. I was most likely to succeed. I was really, really thriving as a young man. But here's the problem. Every time I would, be the running back and score a touchdown, I always wanted to see number 22's dad standing up there in the stands with my jersey, my little shirt. I would score all the touchdowns, and then as I'm going to the locker room, everybody else's parents be like, "Good game, Cedric." But guess what? My dad was never there. And the closer we got to the locker room, here's this kid who didn't even get in the game. His uniform's clean as when he started. And his parents, they're hugging him, telling him how proud they are of him. But my mom's working 2 jobs trying to keep a roof over our head, and my dad wasn't there. So now I'm alone. So I was a superstar on the field, but I still felt like I lost because I didn't have that love and that support. So just to think that no matter if I was 16 or 20, if I bring a kid in this world, I would never be that. So my dad, in some ways, even though I lost him a few years ago, he was really like a role model of what not to do. Because now I would never do that. So now, yeah, I'm coming to the game with, number 3's dad on the back of my shirt, or I don't care what you're doing. If you cheerleading, I'm there. You know what I mean? If you I'm congratulating you when you make an A. We having a parade when you make an A on your report, because guess what? These my kids, and I'm proud of them, and they need my support, and I'm their father. God ain't gonna stop being my father. I'm not gonna stop being. I'm gonna be your dad. If I'm 90 years old, you're gonna be my baby. So yeah, he really helped me, because he made me know what's important. Let me. It's more important that I'm your father than I'm your friend. I always was like, oh, I'm gonna be cool with my kids. No, I'm cool with my kids, but I want my kids to know the truth. First, I want them to know about God and what I believe, and I want them to know that it's okay to fail, it's okay to struggle, because that's part of living. And just keep going. That's the key. You got to keep going. You got to keep loving. And I'm like the geese when they fly south for the winter. You got 1, then you got 2, then you got 3. And that lead geese, he gets tired sometimes. And that's the way I am about my kids. If you get tired, I'm here to just say honk, because I'm going to encourage you to keep flying, to keep going, to keep believing. Just keep making a way, because that's life. We making the best of everything we got. Yeah.
Right. To add to, or to give just a tad bit of pushback to your answer, you said that you are our father and not our friend, or partly not our friend. But me, I would actually disagree, because I do feel like, to me, I do feel like you were like a father and a friend. And I guess it's because you were so fun. You were so fun. I just like my memories of you, even like as a child and stuff. You were always so fun. You were like the friend I never had, or like the male friend I never had. Because I've always been like the how Issa Rae says it. Issa Rae has a book called The Awkward Black Girl. That definitely was me. I was like the awkward kid. So like, to me, you were like so much fun. And like, even my friends, like some of my friends, they used to tell me all the time, and I don't even know if I ever told you, they used to be like, man, your dad is so fun. Like, they'd be like, oh my God, like, man, I want to come over your house so I can hang out with you and your dad. Like, well,
it was important to me because your friends were important to you, and you were the most important thing to me. So when your friends come around, they like coming under your umbrella. They just like, I see you, I see them. So that's why if I buy you something, I'll buy them something.
And I always love that.
So what I really wasn't saying that I wasn't your friend. I was very much your friend, but it was more important to me to be a father to you rather than a friend, because I understand that my kids got to grow up, and I understand that my kids one day going to have families of their own, and they're going to have to be mothers, and they're going to have to be fathers. So what am I going to do? Like, what is my friendship going to do when I'm not here anymore? My memory will live on, but what do you carry from me? You can remember the things that I taught you as a father. And being a father is a big responsibility. Being a husband, we're supposed to be stewards over our wives' souls. So being a father, I think there's a strong level of stewardship there too. You train up a child in the way that they should go, and then they won't depart from it. Now, the Bible didn't say they won't stray. He didn't say they won't mess up. He said they won't depart from it. So I always say this, and I think people miss it. How do you separate yourself from you? You can't, because once you realize who you are, and I've taught you and I've given you the blueprint, I've actually given you the basic instructions before leaving earth, the Bible. That's your manual. You understand what it is. So now, even when it gets dark, it gets sad, and dad ain't around, open up your manual. You know your Bible. Yeah. Look, yeah, that's what I want to hold on to. But yeah, I'm definitely your friend. But one thing I want to add, and on your pushback, you made it easy though for me to be, because you was fun, you were funny, and you were quiet, and you was the awkward black girl like Issa Rae said. But at the same time, in your awkwardness, I saw you, and I knew you, because you, in your comfort, you would talk to me. So I would always tell you, man, everybody got to see this. I tell people all the time, I be like, my daughter's so dope. You know what I mean? I say, I promise you, it was last week I was telling somebody, I said, I'm not just saying it because she's my daughter. She is so dope. And people who don't know her, if she would just show them who she is, just her intelligence, her articulation, the way she perceives things, the way she sees life. It's just amazing, and that's a gift. It's not something that I can't even take credit for. I see a lot of stuff in you that I say, boy, that's like me. But, all I can do is look at you and say, that's like me, and then I can look at myself and say, that's like God, because that's the Father in me. He who is in me is better than he who is in the world. And when we in God, man, we Christ-like. We God-like.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that for me has a lot to do with, well, first off, let me just say I appreciate that. I really do. And you have been telling me that since I was little. You'd be like, you need to open up and show the world. And I'm like, I tried, but it's just, for me, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, I struggle so bad with like social anxiety. And I think it's just because a lot of the seeds that were planted in black families in particular, you just like you said, you can plant like what we were talking about earlier. You can plant little seeds in somebody's head, and you can say something and not even realize how you're affecting them. Right. So, like, to me, I guess as a child, I always like internalize. Sometimes it could be something innocent, like for example, like your mom or your dad or whomever, grandparent or whomever, saying stuff like, girl, go sit down and be quiet. Or, like, this is a grown folks conversation. We don't need you. See your way out. Right. Or something like that. And then you hear that so much, and then you internalize that. So then you say, okay, well, nobody cares about what I got to say. Right. Nobody cares about what I think. And I'm going to do a podcast episode on that, too. Right. Because a lot of those things that we speak, we never realize how they plant little seeds. Yeah, power in those words.
Tupac say they planted seeds and they hatch.
Right, and they do, and that's perfect. Right. Yeah, because seriously, them seeds be hatching in your head, and that's exactly what was happening to me. Like, I would hear stuff like that, and then I'll be like, oh, well, it don't matter, because if I open up and I say anything, people just gonna pick apart everything I say, and they're gonna judge me, and they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that. So then I just did the opposite, and I just shut down, and I said nothing at all.
Right, I saw that.
I said
but
nothing at all.
But you do realize you just happened to. It wasn't you, and it wasn't particularly life in general that made you feel that way. It was literally the family you grew up in, because we're a bunch of loud people, and we're a bunch of loud, fun people. So it was more like the comedian got the word in our house, the one who could say the fastest joke or make up the quickest song or be the loudest, because you won't get heard, So it's like, get in where you fit in, but you better do it quick and get people attention, because you got a bunch of superstars, Jock. So I saw you get overridden, and I remember even your aunt, Tiffany's your aunt, your cousin. Tiffany would, like, when she was young, she just started yelling, like, hey, because she wanted attention so bad, because she could never get the floor.
Me and her were a lot.
But I was in your position. Nobody listened to me at some point. And then as I grew and I honed in on my craft and who my family was, then I kind of moved up the ladder and became like an important male figure in the family. As you watch that growth, but it wasn't there at first. So, I think it's all about, it's almost like a transmogrification, if you would, like a butterfly, a caterpillar, turning into a butterfly.
Right, exactly. Yep, but that's exactly, most times what it is. So, this is just a word for anybody, because I always say I have no idea who could listen to this. So I just always say, be careful what seeds that you plant in your kids' head, because even something as simple as like telling them, get out my face, it could really make your child like, I don't matter. Right. And then they internalize that, and then they don't talk to you, and then you like, and then you looking back 30 years from now like, man, I don't understand why they doing what they doing. I don't understand
Right.
why they out here moving like that. I don't understand why he, she, whoever couldn't just talk to me.
Right.
And that's why they couldn't talk to you, because
Right.
sometimes you put up those boundaries to let
Right.
them know that you don't want to talk to them.
We have to be open. We have to be receptive to what each other are, what we're saying to one another. We have to be thoughtful and mindful that we're two different people. And not to get off subject, but real quick, I heard a lady say she was at her husband's funeral. She was a really old lady, and she was there standing over the casket with her grandson. And the lady, she looked over at her grandson, and she said, I'm so sorry. And he looked at his grandmother and said, what are you saying you sorry for? She says, I'm saying this to your grandfather because I was so critical of this man his whole life. He was such a good man, and I was so critical of him. And I just wish I could tell him I'm sorry right now because he was such a good man, but everything he did, I critiqued. You know, I heard a comedian say his wife tells him, like, why you parking there? Why you parking down here? You don't know how to park.
You about Bernie Mac?
Yeah,
he
he
like,
said,
don't park down there. Stop, go.
I never knew I had such trouble parking. Like, I never had that problem when I'm by myself. I park just fine, you know.
Right.
But then now all of a sudden, you know, we tend to be critical of people, and I've learned I'm not going to be critical of my daughter. I'm going to let her be herself. My son, he used to do a cartwheel in church. And people were like, why you letting your son do a cartwheel in church?
Yeah, I used to be mad.
Yeah. And I'm
so
like,
mad.
that I want him to be free. We want to have boundaries without bondage. We want our children to be able to grow. We don't want to allow them to go too far to the left. But at the same time, a lot of African American parents, they tend to be like, don't do this, don't do that, do it. And then we restrict our kids. We clip their wings and they can't fly. Because this is our world too. Yeah, it was privilege given to certain people. And yeah, some things you might, get in trouble for that other people will not. We understand that. But that's why we talk about the boundaries, but without the bondage. Don't put your kids in bondage. Don't put your kids in all these restricted boxes. Allow them kids to be themselves so they can be great. That's right. What I wish for.
Yeah, I do too, because, a lot of people don't realize that this might ruffle some feathers, but it's the truth. Your kids are not you.
Right.
You are you.
Right.
You are you. Just like you used to tell me when I was little, and I promise, sometimes I find myself telling people this. You used to tell me all the time, you are the only you.
Right.
You are the only one with your fingerprints.
Right.
So, like, literally, you have to realize that your children are not you. I know you may want them to do whatever it is that you couldn't do, but God made them their own free-thinking individual with their own brain and their own head and body and mind.
And that's the beauty of it, and that's what I always want my kids to understand. Be you. You can watch your daddy shine and be like, boy, that's my daddy, boy. He crazy, he funny, he this, he that, he's successful, he's made this or made that. And whether it's up or down, but at the same time, what about you? Mm-hmm. Your daddy, the only thing important is that I want to teach you to save your money. I want to teach you to impart in people. I want to teach you to be good. You are the prize. You are the gift. You are the salt of the earth that God puts you here for a purpose, so you can let your light shine before men so they can see the goodness in you, because it's all a gift. It's just like you. I started a toy drive. You started giving away Easter baskets. Mm-hmm. I brag about that because it's like, I want to show you give you some material that you can look over, and then you come up with your own way of life. And then it was good, And as long as it's good and it's of God, it's beautiful to me. It's beautiful.
And, okay, so most of these, look, in conversation, we pretty much have answered, because my next question after that was, what does your father's absence teach you, if anything? So you pretty much answered that one already. So my next question is it might be a little touchy, but it's honest. So, this is more so kind of to help you, to help me, and to help those who are fatherless today. Right. So, my question is, because if I'm not mistaken, I feel like I saw on Facebook maybe like the anniversary of your father's death was
Right.
like this weekend,
Right.
or something like that.
Right.
So, my question is, when your dad died, were you hurt because you weren't hurt, or were you indifferent about it?
Well, surprisingly, I used to say, because my dad wasn't, I don't want to sound wrong, wasn't me with my kids. I did more for my children before they were born than my dad really did for me my whole life. And at the same time, as a child, I thought he was like my hero. Like he played professional football for the Cowboys. That was my team. It felt so good to tell everybody my dad played for the Cowboys, and it just looked like I grew up in this fancy world with this professional football player dad who really the reality was my dad wasn't even around. You know what I mean? I had no conversations with him. Every time I go, to eat at this particular restaurant, there's a seat that he always sat at every day he ate breakfast there. And I look at that seat and it's empty. And some of the waitresses knew him because he was there every day, and they didn't know he died. And they said, "That's your dad?" And I said, "Yeah, he passed away, but I didn't think I would ever hurt." I always say, I was like Tupac, I want to cry, but my anger wouldn't let me feel for a stranger, Yeah. But when my dad died, I sat in my chair at home and I cried like a baby. I mean, I cried. I took my soul to the laundromat. I was so hurt but I was more hurt that he had so many opportunities to fix it. And then I have siblings that are more hurt than I am. They really like hurt by dad didn't do this. Like one of my brothers didn't even come to the funeral because he wasn't there for him, and he just could not, come to a funeral and really celebrate a homegoing for somebody who wasn't there for him. Now, I'm not taking it out on my dad. To be honest with you, my uncle, his brother, taught me how to hold a football. He believed in me. He had a struggle with drugs, my uncle. But my uncle always told me how much he loved me and how proud he was of me. He thought I was successful or something. In his mind, I was like a success. So, I cry about my uncle more than I do about my dad, his younger brother. But, yeah, my dad, I miss my dad. I miss my dad. I wish things had, we made it through. I wish we would have, he would have, did some of the things he told me he would do. My dad had a lot of time just to, just brag when he was around me about his accomplishments, about who he was, about how much women wanted him. But my brother always says, let's break generational curses.
Right.
So I don't have that curse on my life. I'm not a womanizer. I'm not this. Have I womanized as a young man? Maybe I did. But today, I'm a godly man a faithful man who really puts God first. He loves his children, and I'm just trying to make a way that where I can still be a giver in this climate, because life is tough right now. To still, host my toy drives and give to the homeless. I spent 30 minutes yesterday sitting down talking to the most brilliant homeless lady I ever seen.
Yeah, they be the smartest people.
Man, this lady gave me so much insight in the midst of her being homeless, and she couldn't believe that I had that much time for her. But sometimes God carves out dispensations for us to be able to just impart in people, and people really, she was imparting in me. She was making me see how much opportunity is. She said that she thinks at the end of her being homeless that she's going to end up being opening a facility to where she can facilitate and help homeless people, transition from being homeless back to being good citizens, because she came from a privileged background. To be able to launch them back into society, seeing all the things that she saw. Because people out there, like, not to derail what we're talking about, they're out there dying every day off fentanyl. Like, this is a big problem. Maybe we'll talk about that another time.
Oh,
but
yeah.
there's a very strong relevance to the drug uses that they were using back then compared to what they're doing now. But we're good, you know, as far as I'm happy that, you know, God has, you know, made a way for us to be who we are today. Yeah.
Okay. To add to it, I don't know if I ever talked to you about this before, or if you knew this already, but for me, just speaking for me, because, you know, even when I was younger, I knew how much you wanted to be around your dad, and then that in turn also made me curious about him and who he was and all these things like that. I remember the first time, you know, some of your sisters and some of your brothers had added me on Facebook, and I finally saw like a clear picture of him. Because I remember you had like a picture in a thing in your picture book, like a little newspaper clipping, and I remember you had something else, but I remember it being real blurry and you couldn't really see him that well.
Right.
So I didn't even know what he looked like up until, you know, some of your siblings added me on Facebook, and I was like, whoa, because finally I could look at like a picture of him side by side with you and be like, oh, that's where my daddy get that from. That's where my daddy get those freckles from. That's where my daddy get. And it just so for me, honestly, I'm being transparent. I don't know if, you know, any of your siblings will listen to this, and I hope they don't get offended, but for me, just being honest, because this is the whole point of my podcast, being transparent. I was kind of like, I was kind of like, of course I didn't have any real like emotion about it because I don't know him, but it kind of hurt my feelings because it made me go back to, I remember my granddad, and when I say my granddad, I'm speaking on my mother's father. I remember him and my granddad, my other granddad, they went to the same barber. And so basically, for those of you listening, I know that might sound a little confusing, but basically both of my grandfathers went to the same barber because, you know, my family, they grew up very close knit. You know, a lot of them grew up in the same area. So my grandparents, you know, grew up with each other. My parents grew up with each other. Our families were always kind of like interconnected, basically. Right. And I remember they went to the same barber shop, and I remember my granddad, and when I say my granddad, I mean my active grandfather, and this is no diss to him, but he wasn't active. So I remember my grandfather was like, hey man, I really think you should meet your granddaughter. I really think you should meet her. He was like, I'm telling you, man, like, she want to meet you, and she awesome, and I'm telling you, you would love her. Right. And he was like, he told me that he said no. And when he said that, I'm not gonna lie, it hurt my feelings so bad. Right. Oh, it hurt my feelings so bad, because I was like, why? Like, why? Like, what did we do? Right.
I went through it.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, exactly, and that's why I was like, what did we, like, what did we do? Like, what did we do to you? Like, please explain to me, what did we do?
He did it to himself, and he was embarrassed, and he was ashamed of the man that he had created a lot of children out of, mind you, he was married. He did it out of wedlock, and for me, you can't make excuses for somebody for the way they chose to live. It's just not fair. It's not honest with God. It's not honest with the people who may need help in this podcast. But he cried to me. He wanted to do better. He desired, but so many of us, we desire to do better, but we never do it. Right. We have our moments where we cry and we feel so bad about it, but we never do anything to change it. Right. You know, a lot of us want a Monday morning quarterback. Oh, I would have did this. No, you wouldn't have. You'd have got hit and fell down. That's what you would have did. If I was a slave, I wouldn't have picked no cotton. Oh, yes, you would have. Right. Once that whip hit your back. So the thing is, don't talk about, I read a book, don't talk about it, just do it. My dad lacked that. My dad was a very handsome man. Like, I look at old pictures of him. My dad looked at me eye to eye one day and he said, "Son, you lucky." And I said, "Why am I lucky?" He says, "You lucky you got my bloodline." I said, what?" He said, "You lucky you look like me. I guarantee you don't have no problem getting women." So at his funeral, everybody was coming to me, "Oh, you look more like him than any of them. You look so much like him." And I found myself, at first, I was like feeling a little bit of pride behind it. But I was like, why am I proud of that? I thank God. I don't regret. I did my DNA. I know where I come from. I know everything about my dad, his origin, my mom's origin. I'm no more proud about my dad's origin than my mom's origin. Everybody knows that I'm like Tiger Woods. I'm like Cobbler Indian. I'm a little bit of Indian, white, black. I come from Ireland. I come from my African American side is because I'm Nigerian. So it's like it's so. And I knew my grandfather, just looking at him. I said, "Man, this man looks German. I'm a strong percent German." And my grandfather looked like a real racist man, white man, but he was German. So I have family members, Caucasian family members all throughout Florida, Georgia. So
yeah, some of them be reaching out to me on Ancestry.
Right.
I don't know how to answer the questions. I be like, I don't know how to answer that. I can't help you.
My brother and my dad used to go visit with him, but it's just not for me. And I'm not knocking it. I pray for him, but I'm good right here where I am right now. I just want to be able to focus on the people that's important in my circle, because life has a way of, kind of breaking down family structure. Right, yeah.
So, I'm adding a question in there, but basically it's kind of piggybacking off of what we were just talking about. What advice would you give to somebody that grew up fatherless? Because, okay, here's my thing. When you were just talking, it put a seed in my brain, and I was almost contemplating naming the title of this episode that, because if you pay attention, I name a lot of my episode titles, correlate them to music and to certain songs. So Usher has this song. It's called "Sins of My Father," and anybody who knows me knows how much I'm like obsessed with Usher. So literally in this song, he says, "These are the sins of my father. He left a debt to his son." And that's like so heavy,
right?
Because like really think about what that is saying. Like the things that my dad did, I'm dealing with the leftovers. I'm dealing with the residue of that, basically.
Right.
So what advice would you give to somebody that's fatherless today?
Well, I'm gonna go back to what you were talking about earlier. You spoke on how you wondered why he said no. He didn't want to see you, and how it made you feel. Well, I carried those feelings as a child for a long time, and just as a human being, we learn how to survive. It's almost like you driving your car and you don't have money to fix your transmission, and it's slipping a little bit. And at first you panic. You're like, "Oh, my transmission's slipping." But you realize that you get up day after day and you drive to work, and that car keeps making it. So you just learn to just deal with that little slippage in your transmission. And that was kind of like the way I kind of accepted the fact that my father wasn't going to do what he was supposed to do. And I would say, let me put this energy into my children. Now, I will tell you, and I'll say this because I'm going to land the plane on this. I was outside my dealership one day, and my father rolled by, and this was just the wrong day. Mm-hmm. And as he rolled by, he didn't even beat the horn. And it was a friend of mine there and my secretary, and I just started crying, bawling. And they were telling me, "Oh, you so much a better man than he is," and this and that. But that particular day was a hurtful day for me, because I saw him ride by, and I know he saw me, but this particular day, he didn't even beat the horn. And I'm thinking like, man, I can't go days without talking to my kids, and this man could just ride by me. It just really, really hurt me. But I realized if you dealing without a father, you got to remember something. We don't belong to our fleshly fathers anyway.
Right.
We are children of the Most High God himself. God said that he made parents stewards over his children. Mary was so hurt when Jesus got led to the cross because she kept thinking about how when he fell as a child, she helped him up because she thought that was her son. He wasn't. He was God's son. He belonged to God. We all children, we stewards. I'm just a steward over you. God is the ultimate father of us all. So if you here without a parent, just remember God created you very uniquely. He created you separate but equal. Nothing more, nothing less. So now you have to stand on your two. You have to learn about God. You have to carry yourself in the right way. You have to do good. You have to push aside evil. You got to press towards the higher calling. You got to be the salt of the earth. You got to be you because you were here for a reason. You are going to be in somewhere where nobody else can be. You're going to be standing somewhere every day that nobody else is there. You're going to be walking and talking to people that nobody else is going to be. You are on assignment, to live out a life that you have to understand that God loves you. And you're very important to him. You're like that sheep that gets lost. And he leaves all the other sheep and he goes and picks that sheep up and carries them. So carry that in your heart, knowing that you are very important to God. And as important to God as you are, you have to show that to God and show that to people who need you. So don't let one person carry your destiny.
That was good. That was really good. Let's see, because you answered that one. The next question, and this is the next to the last. So, it would be, what advice would you give to a brand new father?
I would tell him easily, that's a blessing. I mean, the older I get, if I had my finances really stupidly together, if I was like this multi-millionaire, I promise you, I probably would have wanted more kids. You got everything in your hands. You are in prime. God has entrusted you to this person, to this innocent being. I think it's not the OJs, it's Earth, Wind, and Fire said, a child is born with a heart of gold. The way of the world makes his heart so cold. So you got this piece of gold in your hands that you can just mold to be everything you want them to be. You can impart the love. You can give them your life. You can give, they can give you so much joy. I was looking at this meme on TikTok, and it was like parents who want to show each other affection, but they got a little baby, and the baby keep pushing them apart, or putting their cheek in the middle of them, so instead of them two kissing, they want to kiss the baby. It is just the most, you have nothing but joy in your hands. And I'll say, love that child. Train up the child in the way that they should go. And remembering that child is going to grow up with what you pour in them. Be careful what you say around that child. Be careful what you do. Don't just tell that child. An ounce of example is worth a ton of advice. You can tell that child, don't gossip about people, but then you leave church talking about, oh, man, you saw his suit. Don't be that person. Don't be a hypocrite. Be real with your child. Love that child. Teach that child. Embrace that child. Let that child know that they can do anything. And do not clip the child's wings. Let that child fly. Do not inhibit that child. Teach that child that they can be anything they want to be in this world. And it's proven. I never would have thought, it's going to be a black president, or it's going to be this. And it's not about black and white. It's about love. Love conquers all. Love, love, love. Teach your child love. Don't teach them just to be successful. Don't teach them, because success is not money. Don't just say, go to the best school in the world and get this big education so you can make more money. That's what most people teach their children. It's not just about money. Teach your child how to be a good person, and the money gonna come. Teach them how to be loving. Teach them how to be disciplined. School is just a way to prove that you're dedicated to something. Right. That's why people look at your resume, because you finished 4 or 6 years of college. It shows that you were committed to something. So you may commit to this job that I'm about to give you. Right. Teach the child the right morals and the right standards, and that's the best I can give in advice for any young father.
That's some great advice. To add to that, I know I'm not a father. I'm not a parent. Well, in the I guess in the world I'm not a parent. I'm a godparent. That's good enough for me. Right. That's parent enough. Right. Look, I didn't physically birth them. Right. But when I address those children, I address them as my daughters. Right. So shout out to y'all. Right. But I'm not a parent yet. But I would also say don't feel like you have to have it all together. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. Just be there. Right. Just be. That's like good. So many people feel like you gotta. I gotta do. Right. Do this right or do this right or right. I messed. Just be there. Just, right. Just be there for your child in whatever any capacity or in whatever capacity that they need you to be. And sometimes adding to that. The reason why I say be there for them in whatever capacity that they need you to be is because sometimes the capacity that you feel like you want to be there for them may not be the capacity that they need you to be there. So just be there for them in whatever capacity that they need you to be. Right. And be open and honest with your kids. Kind of going back to what I said earlier, and also what you said, don't shut your kids down, but also just be honest. Like, if you're going through something or whatever, I know maybe if your kids are younger, it may be a little difficult versus, how we are now. Right. We're adult people. Right. But still, just be honest and meet them at whatever level that they're at, and be open and honest. Like, hey, I'm going through something right now. Right. Be honest, because a lot of parents be going through stuff, and then your kids wonder why you so distant, why you won't talk, why this and that, and then parents will say, kind of what I was saying earlier. Parents will say, like, you can come to me anytime, and then like when you going through something, it's like, okay, you saying I can come to you, but you can't even be open and honest with me if you going through something. Just be honest with your kids.
Once an adult, twice a child, and parents start to learn that. I learned that even going out, not to derail you, like just to kind of piggyback what you saying, like I learned that with my mom, when now, I have to hold her hand and and really have to repeat stuff to her, and it's just and that's very good right there, just to be able to be open and to be able to talk, and then like you said, when you was younger, it was things I would try to talk to you about, and you would tell me, you said, I don't want to talk about it, and because it was tough stuff. And then now, I realize, like, the older we get a little more mature, we get a little more thick skin, we get to see real life, what it looked like, paying bills, living life, and then still find the beauty in it, because it's all about perspective. Right. And if you choose to think, your mind is powerful. You can just be like, I got all this, got these bills, I got this, life bad, I don't feel good. The next thing you know, you're going down this tunnel, and you bringing life to these dead situations where you could just speak life into your life, and no matter what I'm going through, it's just beautiful because the sun's shining, birds flying, air and opportunity, is what we have. So
that was really good. And then also continuing, I would just say, please listen to your children. I'm gonna add that to their being a father. Like, I know, of course, with a little baby, it's a little different. But as your child grows and matures, just listen to them. Don't be so dismissive to your child. Right. Because people be like, I don't take no advice from no children. Right. Well, why? Right. Because once again, I go back to what I said, God can put something in all of us. Right. And we say that a lot, like, let God use you. God can use anybody, and we say that. Right. But then a child may be like, no, mama, don't do that. And then you like, I'm the adult, you
Right,
the child,
right.
or
That child
no, daddy, and you like, that child could be the one.
Right.
Your
The
child
oracle.
could be
God
the
speaking through them children.
the prodigal child.
Trust me.
Yeah.
I listen.
Yeah, please listen to your
That's
child.
part of that, allowing your kids room to be themselves is what I was saying, because instead of saying, you know, because my mom used to say this thing, because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm like, well, Mom, don't ask me why. It was just certain things that I understood that my mom was trying to teach us, because she was trying to be my mama and my dad, I guess, because I sent her Happy Father's Day this morning, because I know she was trying to play both parts. So she really kind of made her like a bipolar parent in a way, because she got to love you, then beat you. You're like, do you love me or do you want to chastise me? Which one is it? You know, so now you got to pick a side, lady, because you looking a little crazy. But now as an adult, I see she was trying to do the best she could. And she did a great job, because she taught me. She had a grammar jar in the house. I mean, I articulate a little bit. You know, I still was growing up in the neighborhood where it wasn't cool to be articulate, but you know, but at the same time, it helped me to at least, you know, respect education at some point in my life. Right. So yeah, I thank God for that. Mom, shout out to Mom, teaching 40-something years.
Woo, woo.
Big up to Mom.
Shout out, Grandma.
My little soldier. My little soldier. She's so strong.
We love you, girl. Look, I know I'm your favorite. You ain't got to tell her. I always be messing with her. I used to come to her door and knock on the door and be like, she'd be like, who is it? I'd be like, your favorite grandchild. You know, I know I'm not the favorite. I know I'm not. But it just made me feel good to say that.
She, I can tell you this. She's proud of you, and
I'm probably a close second.
Right.
I'm
running up there now.
We all know Tiffany the favorite.
Yeah,
it's okay.
She felt like your mom was so golden, and you never really you know, your mom. Shout out to your mom, who she never needed help. She probably wanted something, but she was so strong in loving you. You know, she never really had to come dump you off on my mom's doorstep. And that sounds, you know, because she is your grandmother. But she never had to babysit, because your mom was never looking to be in the streets to be having to drop a kid off. And no, not for parents who still want to have a quality of life. But she took the responsibility of you, and she womaned up. And for that, shout out to your mom.
Shout out.
One time.
Shout out Nicky G in the house. Nicky G in his house.
In his house.
And okay, so to wrap it up, because I was gonna ask you some other questions, but you kind of already touched on them, so I'm gonna just bypass them. So okay, so my last question for you is, what advice would you leave to your children?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because in my mind, I was just sitting here thinking, like, I just wanted to say something personal to my children, because I think about this podcast now, like, okay, you know what? What if this was like one day was the last words that my kids would hear from me?
Right.
I just want to say something real personal to my kids, one by one, and in my own way.
I was just gonna say, you can break it down,
I want to say to my son Cedric Jr. I love you, man. I love the person you are. I'm sorry that, you know, some of our lifestyle choices are different, but I don't think that I should be punished for that, because I've always admired you. Like, just talking to you, you solid. Me and you always complete sentences with me. You so much like me till it's scary. And I know your parents was like, well, your dad would have never did that, and your dad was this way and that way, and it made you not really want to be like me. But at the same time, I gotta tell you, your dad was pretty cool, man. So I think, you know, you should embrace the fact that I love you, and it's never too late, you know. I remember somebody made this song called Be a Father to Your Child. It's never too late to correct your mistake. You know, so I want to reach out. I hope you get this before I'm gone, because just give me a chance, bro. It's never, ever too late. I love you. I think I'm proud of you. I love what you're doing. I creep on you sometimes on your page just to see how you out there making a good life for yourself. So I say to you, hey, man, look, I wish I could have been better. I had you when I was 16, and now I'm a grown man here. And forgive me, but I want to go straight into you.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Brief intermission. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry, y'all, for the brief intermission, but we're back. So going into the next, before we do, I just want to say, look, listen, we love you. I love you. I hope and pray that you listen to this. I always tell people all the time, you are like one of the most amazing people that I have like ever met in my life. I promise you, probably like the coolest one out of all of us. I tell people that all the time, but I just want to tell them on wax so that you can hear this and you can go back and play it over and over and over again. I admire you in so many ways, and I'm just piggybacking off of that and just letting you know that you are the best, and I just want you to be able to see what we see and what I see. And I know people tell me the same thing because me and you are kindred spirits. We're so much alike. But yeah, I just want to let you know that you are the best. You are the best, and we love you so much. So I just want my personal touch.
I like it, and I just want to say one more thing, man. Hey, said you lucky you got my bloodline. No, I'm just kidding. Sound like my daddy.
Right, I know.
I sound like that's what my daddy said. But you are a good looking kid, man. You do look like your dad. I promise you. I see pictures. I say, look at my son looking like his dad. But yeah, I would never do the Lewis. Or I didn't want to say the name, but I would never do that to you and just say you lucky. But no, I'm lucky. I'm lucky to have a son as great as you. And but let me get on to my next kid, and it may be a little weird, but I'm going straight into my daughter. Hey, boys, don't be offended. I'm gonna just give it to you real. Yes, I understand that y'all probably feel a little, different because I was with my daughter's mom, and we tend to feel like the child that's growing up in the home has all the advantages. But let my brothers who grew up with my dad tell me, they said he was never there. It wasn't like it was like the best, like they had a bigger advantage or anything. But just my daughter, maybe it's just this my only daughter, first of all. And she just made it easy, and it's unfair, and she knows, like, she kind of cheated because she was doing so much right. It's kind of hard not to have this extreme love for a child that you invest your time into, and they do what you taught them. They when she was little, I asked her, I said, hey, I can't go to Florida State now because I'm going to, I got to take care of my kids. I got to get a job. I got to pay bills. But I say, do you promise me when you grow up that you'll go to Florida State? And my daughter went to Florida State and did her thing. And I can remember her just calling me from school like, Dad, I cannot do this project. And I'm like, girl, you do it every time, and I'm like, roll around on the bed. I don't care, just change your thought process. I don't care if you got to do a cartwheel in your apartment. Just turn around and then do what you do best. And then what you made on your, I made an A. Of course you made an A because that's what you do. It's in your DNA. So I like to take credit, but I can't. It's God. So to God be all the glory. And I thank God for just giving me such a blessing of a daughter. Like, I can't express to her how proud I am of her and how much I love her. And yeah, I want to maintain my quality of life. And Daddy, I remember on Baby Boy, Mama said, Mama got needs too. Daddy got needs too. I got to live, love, still try to have a quality of life. I jumped up. They say I jumped off the porch early. I never liked that statement. But I got started so early that I didn't get to just enjoy myself. So yeah, sometimes I'm enjoying myself, but the lack of love is not there. So I tend to my way of reaching out to my daughter every day is just like, sending, we share scripture and stuff like that, but that's no excuse. I still want to make more time for me and you, because time is time, and you got to make time. People don't understand, when you have a busy schedule, you got to make time. I won't say a name, but one of my best friends, and you would know who it is, like growing up, we like brothers. and their dad was a very important person in the city, and he was a pastor and so forth. But he's a great man. He is a great man, not a good man, a great man. He treated me like his son. But I can tell you.
Right, I be telling people he my granddaddy. That
right.
man don't even know me like that.
Right.
But I be telling people he my granddaddy.
Right, he's so awesome. He loved me, and you would have to make an appointment. I remember one time he was so busy that you would have to make an appointment. His kids would have to really make an appointment to see him, and I didn't like that. But as I understood that he had thousands of members in his church, everybody want to tell you, like the pastor said today, I don't feel like praying for everybody who just show up at my door wanting to pray. It's like you don't know. People want to tell you their story, how they hurt their ankle, how their kid fell down and skinned his knee, and it's a lot. You can't do that. Well, sometimes you gotta have people in position to help. It's like one person running a brand new car dealership. He's the service manager. He pumped the tires up. He write the deals. Mm-hmm. He get the parts. He order. You can't wear all those hats. So I thank God for just learning from this man who taught me that sometimes we're busy and it's okay to be busy because life is busy. But at the same time, make time for the important things. It was Steve Jobs. He passed away. And he wrote a book before he died. And they asked him, they said, Steve, why did you write this book? Did you want the world to know you? He says, no. He says, I wanted my kids to know me.
Yeah.
They said, what do you mean by that? He says, he spent his whole life working, building computers, making all this money, but he never had time for his children. So he wrote a book just so his children could learn who he was, because he gave his life kind of like a sacrifice to the world to make the world a better place, but didn't make time for his children. Make time for your children. Make time for your family. Make time for what's important. Because there ain't no man laid on his deathbed and says, what if you could do something different, what would it be? Oh, I wish I'd have made more money. I wish I'd have had more houses. I wish I'd have made more time with the people that matter and spent more time with the people that are important. Right. That's what we have done. So, to my daughter, I give you your flowers right now. I always tell you, you wonderful. I always wanted the world to see who you are. I'm so proud of you. You definitely are the child that I'm most proud of, and nobody has favorites. And it's not that I choose you as my favorite. I choose you as my child that I've been able to connect with, my child that has shown me the most love, the most thoughtful person. And you're my only girl, so girls can be thoughtful, but some girls ain't that thoughtful. But you are a very thoughtful, creative child. And I thank God for that. And with that being said, I go to my little young knucklehead son, who I love very much also, who some would think that is my favorite. Noah has not been my favorite because I love my children equally. Noah just has been, he came into my life, into this world at a time where I was more established, where I could have more time, where I could afford to say, I don't need to go to work because I got money, let me go spend some time with my son. And he cleaved to his father from the beginning. He wanted to be with his daddy. My son could have an opportunity to go to a theme park with his other people, or just go to the corner store with his dad. He want to go with his daddy. So that was like a thing for me and my son, and we bonded, you know what I mean? And I wanted him to see it, and I was at a point where I could be a better father. And so I have a massive amount of love for Noah, and so much of who he is and his personality was so different from you, because you were just my obedient daughter who was so much like her dad, and Noah would be like me, and then he just go off and act like somebody else. And I'm like, man, who are you? And I'm like, hey, come back. Let me reel you back in. But at the same time, nevertheless, a free a free spirit, a happy soul. So funny, so smart.
Real funny.
Yeah, so great.
Smart.
Such a handsome, big head boy, looking like his grandpa. And I just love him very much. I look at everything, like our disagreements and the things that that happen between him and I, and say to my son, I love you. I'm still proud of you. I'm waiting. I pray that as a father, I could see you come full circle as a man, and I'm sure you're growing, but I want to see it. I want to see it for myself. I want to see it in a way that only God can tell me and incline my eyes to know that I've seen my son come full circle as a man. I piggyback on what they said about King David and the things that King David was doing in the word we heard today. And he was always around here, looking at other people, pointing a finger, and then what was his name called him out? I forget the guy whose name started with Nathan. Yeah, Nathan called David out. He said, man, whoever do this, I feel like they should be punished and they should be charged double and all this stuff. And Nathan told him, it's you.
Right.
You're the one who is doing the wrong, just because you're in a position. So I think my son has to recognize his error in his ways.
Right.
Just like I had to recognize mine, just like we all have to recognize ours. And I say to my son, grow, love, and keep being you. I love you, and I got your back. And just treat your children the way I treated you, because I would have to say you probably, believe it or not, got the best of me. You got the best man, the mature man, the godly man.
I would agree.
Yeah, he got all the fruit.
I would agree. And everybody says, side note, everybody says it's me, but I always said it's you. I want you to hear that from the horse's mouth. It's you.
It was him. It was him, because you had the house, but I was still trying to build.
I had the house, but you were still
I was
working.
gone. I was
and
working.
That's what I see. Thank y'all.
Right.
Listen, I'm glad he's saying it, because see, y'all blamed me for years. We being transparent on this episode. Y'all blamed me for years and said, "Oh, you get." And I'm like, y'all don't even know.
No, Brittany would get up and go to. I would work all night. Brittany would get up, and her mom, they would go to work and school, and then she come home. I'm at work. By the time she go to bed, I'm at work still. So we missed each other. Only maybe on the weekend or Sunday we would see each other. So as much. So Noah was getting to work with me every day, going out to lunch, going to church together, sitting down. Noah got everything, supporting his games, driving him in and out of town with his friends. I buy him, we tear them all up together. I don't even wear Jordans, but my son get a pair, I get a pair. We go on shopping sprees. They think we rappers. So it's just he really received so much. And I want to say this, Brittany, she loved Tweety Bird. I made her a Tweety Bird chain when she was 10 years old. Brittany still has her chain. Noah, I made you 5 chains, and you don't have either one of them. So it's just about stewardship and me feeling like if my dad was to give me something, I would cherish it. So we got to learn how to cherish what is gifted from our parents. Cherish the love, cherish the time, cherish the moments, cherish the energy, and give that same love, that time, that energy to your children. It's just that simple.
That was so good. Yes, and I'm so glad. Listen, I got to go back to that. I'm so glad you said that, because they held me responsible for that for years, and I could feel the animosity towards me. And I'm like, what did I do? I'm like, what did I do for real? In the words of Bootsy, why they hating? Why they hating? I'm like, why you hating? I'm like, I ain't even do nothing. I'm like, man, life did it. But I just want to add, and I just let each and every one of y'all know from my mouth that I love each and every one of y'all. Y'all are all so special and unique to me in so many different ways. Noah, I just want to say to you, I know that you and I think it's, to me, I feel like it was kind of a gap in age too.
Right.
But I just want you to know that I love you and I think you're so cool. I remember you used to say to me, or I remember you said to me one time, and it stuck in my head. You were like, yeah, like everybody be, wanting me to be like you, and I can't be like you. And my thing to that is, I want you to know that you don't have to be like me. I don't even want you to be like me. I don't even want to be like me. Most people don't want to be, who God calls them to be. Right. Kind of like just what we were talking about earlier. That message that, shout out to Pastor Michael Todd. But that message that Michael Todd was preaching earlier, which is I think it was the cuff to was it the cuff to commitment or cuff to comfort? Cuff to comfort. Yeah, it was cuff to comfort.
Right. Yeah, and we get cuff to comfort.
Cuff to comfort. And in that message, he was kind of like saying, he said something in that message kind of along those lines, like, we, most of the time when you in like a calling and stuff like that, you don't really want to do that. A lot of things that basically like when God called you to do certain things, you don't necessarily want to do that. And most of the things that God does put inside of you, you like, me? Like,
right.
Like, me? Like, you sure you want me to do that?
You got talking to me.
Right. Like,
I'm just imagining this in my head. No, he's talking to you.
Right, because you cuff to like what's comfortable. And you like, I don't want to, no, God, don't thrust me out of my comfort zone. No, I don't want to do that. Even for me, I tell people all the time when I talk about this about this podcast, not episode, but when I talk about this podcast, the reason why I started it is because God kept putting it on my head. Anybody who know me know I'm not talkative. Right. I'm not any of those things. I didn't want to do. I was like, God, I don't know about that. I don't know about opening up.
But that's that gifting inside you I've been trying to tell you about that people need to hear. Yeah.
I know, and see, and that's exactly why I started this, because just like you tell me all the time, like, the world needs to hear it, the world needs to hear it, bring it out. So this is my way of being completely honest and completely transparent and bringing things out that most people do not talk about, and talking to people that most people don't talk to. Like, for example, talking to you, most people don't sit down and have, episodes with their fathers and really like talk about questions or certain things that maybe always were in the back of their head, but they just never asked them. Right. Because most people just don't even ask their parents anything. Right. So, that was kind of the premise of this episode, or the Mother's Day episode, or whoever, whichever episode. The whole premise of me doing these episodes is to talk to people and to really get people to understand, from the perspective, like I said, today's Father's Day, so understanding from the perspective of a father, and not only just a father, but my earthly father. Right. And then, with any other episode I really try to speak to people who are either currently in it or, know what it really means, so that you could get a clear account. Same with, I'm trying to get an episode together, and yes, I am finna call you out and hold you accountable, but to Kashiri, if you listening to me, anybody who knows Kashiri knows that that's one of my closest friends, and I've been trying to get her on an episode for the longest, to really like speak to, the grief of losing a father and different things like that, because as you know, she lost her father, and I know that this is probably a tough time. Right. But I was listening to somebody, and I cannot remember, because I like to give credit where credit is due, but the source is slipping me right now. If I think about it later, I'll have to try to come back and plug it. But I was listening to, I think it was either somebody's podcast, or it might have been a YouTube video or something like that, and it was this guy, and he was talking, and for the life of me, I wish I could remember who he was. But anyway, he was like, the best time to talk about grief is when you in it.
Right.
Not after the fact.
Right.
The best time to talk about a situation is when you going through it.
Right.
And so that is exactly why I am calling you out and I am holding you accountable, because I really want you to open up and talk to people, because trust me, there are so many people who lost their father, who understand what you're going through.
You gotta go through it to get to it.
Right. Or will lose their father eventually, because we all gonna perish at some point.
Every man, born a woman.
Right. So yes, I am holding you accountable on this Father's Day episode to please come and do an episode with me, because it's so important.
You gotta do it.
Need to hear
you gotta do it.
Look, you heard it from my daddy. He telling you, you gotta do it now.
Even if one person, I mean, and I always say this, even with the toy drive that I'm plugging that we've been doing for 14 years straight, just trying to give toys to children in need and so forth. But it's just not about the label of, or the pride of behind it. It's about if you just reach one person that you could and I'm not talking about reaching with a toy, reaching with the love so that they can want to do that for somebody else or just spark somebody. Tupac says, I may not become president, or I may not spark the brain of the person that will become president, but I may spark the brain of somebody who sparks the brain. So it's all about that seed. You don't know how far that seed gonna grow. You plant one seed and then it's then produced all this fruit, but you don't know the fruit that it'll produce somewhere else. Somebody could take one orange all the way to another state and plant the seed, and next thing you know, it's a whole grove. So you don't know how far this thing can go out. So just do your part. Just, we got to be seed bearers. The Bible says one plant the seed, the other water, but only God can give the increase. So we just keep seeding on people. We keep loving, and the love is the seed is the talking, the watering is the love, but then the increase comes from God and God alone. So we'll watch it sprout.
Exactly. And we are going to end this episode with an attempt. I'm in a little rusty.
Now we gotta go way back.
We gotta go all the way back. Mama, this is for you, because you always be asking me.
This for my boy Pastor Bartley too.
Shout out to Pastor Herb in the house.
We were little when Brittany was a little girl. Her dad thought he was a rapper, so I came to her and we wrote this rap. She couldn't have been 5 years old. He is
a rapper, y'all. He really a wordsmith for real. I just want y'all to know that's where I get my gift from words. Me and Cedric, both of us, we get that gift from him. Seriously.
So we haven't done this. Nor have we practiced. It's just a short rap. We haven't done this since we was young.
I know. Probably the last time I did this, y'all, probably was when I was like 8. Now don't be judging me.
8 years old. So we talking about 20-something years ago, but it starts like this. My name is Cedric Thomas.
And my name is Brittany.
That is my little girl.
And that is my daddy. If you're messing with him, then you're messing with me.
Because we float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Don't hate because it's real and we got a tight flow.
Britt and her daddy playing, you ain't know.
So we got to keep it real, so in God we trust, because it's just the two of us, just you and I. So shake them haters off and leave them in the dust, because we driving drop tops and them haters ride the bus. And you know that we're closer than a shoe to a sock.
Because me and my daughter got this game on lock.
Hey! Booyah!
Hey, look, Mama, that was for you, because you be asking for it, so now you can hear it. Anytime you want to hear it. Look, so I'm going to close this episode out,
You
y'all.
can buy that album, though. Just contact Brittany if y'all want to buy that album right there. We will do that. We perform at bar mitzvahs, weddings. We will do a baby shower. If the price is right, we'll pull up at a baby shower and do it, too. So
we pulling up if the price is right.
Don't make a deal too soon.
Right, exactly. So I just want to say I thank you so much for doing this episode with me. I really appreciate this. I want to say Happy Father's Day to you. And to all the other fathers that are pivotal in my life. Shout out to my grandfather. I thank you so much for all that you do. I shout out my godfather, Mr. Melvin. If you're listening, Happy Father's Day to you. And to any other male that is pivotal in my life, please don't think that because I didn't name drop you that you are not pivotal or important to my life.
Amen.
There are so many other males, in my life that are so important to me, from my Uncle Mike to whomever else who do a lot for me and always show up for me in whatever capacity that I need y'all to. So I thank each and every one of y'all. I love each and every one of y'all, and I want y'all to know that y'all are so important. Y'all are loved. Y'all are appreciated. Y'all are valued. We need you. I don't care what this world be saying about fathers and men and all this stuff like that. We need you. I need you. You can hear it out of my mouth if you haven't heard it from anybody else. And so I'm going to go ahead and close this episode.
Before you do, one more shout out to my nieces and nephews who grew up underneath with Uncle Red. I always told you, just remember I said every time I saw you, I told you you was a prince and you was a princess. And I asked you, who was I? And you always yelled the same thing, the king. So just remember, you are princes, you are princesses, you will become a king. Just remember all the love, and I tried to be a father to y'all as well. Crystal, Renard, Lil Dexter, Tiffany, my whole family, all my extended family, my loved ones. I love each and every one of you, and I thank God for you. Big shout out Father's Day to my mom, Mary Dumas.
Shout out Mary Dumas. Look, we love you, and shout out to my cousins too that he just named. I love each and every one of y'all. Look, I know, hey, we ain't the closest. We got to do better. But hey, look, I'm holding y'all accountable, because right. Look, I be trying. Right. I do try to extend invites and stuff. Hey, y'all be flaking me out sometimes.
Y'all better show up. Y'all better show up.
We got to start showing up for each other and holding each other accountable and really loving on each other, because life is short. So I love each and every one of y'all. I thank y'all. I thank you to whoever listens to this episode. I thank God for sparking my brain to do these episodes. And I'm going to go ahead and close this episode out with my closing remarks, which are, remember to always be authentic, be sweet, be raw, and be unfiltered. And that's real spill. Peace out, y'all.
Deuces.
Peace out.
Deuces.